Hi, my name's Lauren and I'm from the Office for National Statistics. Thanks for tuning in to this presentation about linking armed forces leavers to the 2011 census. The Office for National Statistics in the UK, or ONS, conducted a topic consultation in 2015 to gather views of data users as to which topics they'd like to see in the 2021 census next year. The consultation identified a user need for information on people who have served in the UK Armed Forces and now left. The data required would support commitments made under the Armed Forces Covenant, which is a promise by the nation to ensure that those who serve or have served in the Armed Forces and their families are treated fairly. The Covenant is fulfilled by different groups who have committed to making a difference, including central and local government, single services such as the Royal Navy, British Army and Royal Air Force, businesses, charities and communities. Support is provided to the Armed Forces community in a number of areas, including education, housing, employment, healthcare, family wellbeing services and also financial assistance. So to meet this need, we explored the feasibility of linking the veteran leavers database to 2011 census for England and Wales. So we started with our initial data sets, the veteran leavers database, which is held by the Ministry of Defence here in the UK. It contains about 2.1 million records of individuals who've left the UK Armed Forces since 1971. The 2011 census is held by ONS and it contains just over 56 million records of residents who were in the country on Census Day 2011. So the linkage process doesn't match duplicate records. For example, if one record in the veteran leavers database matches to 2 or more records in the census, then a link isn't made. So to improve the match rate, we started by removing the duplicates, which involved sorting and grouping both data sets by match key 1, which is the match key that uses the most complete information: first name, surname, date of birth and sex. Where we found a duplicate record, we only retained one of them and the others were removed. So the veteran leavers database contained duplicates with different exit dates, so that would be multiple records for the same person but with different exit dates, likely because they've joined the armed forces, served for a while and then left, and then had some time out and then gone back into the forces after that. It could be that their second or third or latest stint in the forces was as a reserve, and as such they'd have a more recent exit date. So we decided to only use the record with the most recent exit date. So that left us with 1.9 million records in the veteran leavers database and just over 54 million records in the census data. So geographical information wasn't available for the linkage because it wasn't included in the veteran leavers database. So we used the available identifying variables such as first name, surname, previous surname, date of birth and sex to create a bespoke set of match keys, which were then encrypted. So we created 24 match keys in total using various combinations of the identifying variables. This table shows the information contained within some of them and the uniqueness of the match key in both data sets on the right hand side. The further down the list of match keys we go, the less unique they become. So I've included the last two to show you that in the census in particular, they lose a lot of uniqueness because of the vast size of the data set. So the linkage process is iterative, so records are first linked using match key 1, which is the strongest, and then residuals or unmatched records are then linked on match key 2, which is the next strongest, and then match key 3, and so on until all the match keys have been used. So using all 24 match keys, we linked the veteran leavers database to the 2011 census using pseudonymized data to protect the identities of the individuals within the data sets. So we then performed a clerical review on a sample of 1,000 linked records, and we did this because we knew upfront that some of the match keys were relatively weak and were likely to produce false matches. So this graph shows the results of the clerical review. Using all the match keys, we linked 73% of the records in the veteran leavers database to a census record. True matches are in dark purple and false matches are in light purple. So the general trend is that the strength of the match keys decreases. As the strength of the match keys decreases, so does the proportion of true matches, and that's with the exception of match keys 9 and 11. So there are even a few match keys that only produce false matches, so number 14, 16, 20 and 24 all produce false matches only. So we recommended that records matched on match keys 1 to 7, 9 and 11 should be taken forward, as these are the best quality linked records. Using only these, the final achieved match rate was 53%. So despite the reduction in the linkage rate, the Ministry of Defence agreed that our recommendation provided the best quality data for their analysis. This is a table of the recommended match keys that produce the final linked data set. So you can see that from match key 5 we start introducing trigrams, bigrams and initials in place of first names to try to overcome some of the inconsistencies that might appear in the data, such as misspellings. Trigrams, of course, are the first 3 letters of the name and bigrams the first 2 letters. So for example, if my name Lauren had been misspelled as Laura, a match would still be made using match key 5 because the first 3 letters of Lauren and Laura are the same. We also conducted some extra analysis looking at the match rate by year of exit from the armed forces. And this graph shows that the closer we get to census day, the better the match rate. And that's what we suspected because as time goes on, the records become of higher quality and they're more complete. So this pattern holds for all 24 match keys, or all match keys aggregated together, which are represented by the dark purple line on the bottom, as well as the recommended match keys represented by the light purple line at the top. So to summarise our findings, the clerical review identified 9 of the original 24 match keys with the highest proportion of true matches, which were recommended to create the final linked data set. Our final achieved match rate was 53%, and the closer the exit date to the census, the better quality the data and the better the match rate across all the match keys. We did come across some limitations of the veteran leavers database, so the further back in time we go, the quality gets poorer. Records were stored on paper before 1970, so any service leavers before that time, the records for them are very sparse, if they exist at all. The further back we go as well, there are more nicknames in the data instead of official names, which obviously make it much harder to match to census records, which are or should be official names. There are also a reasonable number of Commonwealth citizens who serve in the UK Armed Forces, and spellings of their names and their dates of birth can be incorrect some of the time. So one example of this is the Gurkhas, who are from Nepal, and their dates of birth are often incorrect because in Nepal the date of birth isn't as culturally significant as it is in the UK, so the records aren't generally kept of them. So we concluded that while there is some value in linking the veteran leavers database to 2011 census to gather information on armed forces leavers, the final linked dataset only partially meets the user need for information to fulfill the commitments made under the Armed Forces Covenant. So instead of using admin data for this, ONS has developed and tested a census question, which will be included on the questionnaire next year in 2021. So thank you for listening. If you have any questions about the presentation, please feel free to contact me either during the conference or afterwards. My email address is on the screen now. Thank you.